Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to turn an avocado into an avocado tree. It's really simple. You just have to follow some very specific steps to get it to work properly and to have success in doing it, but it's not hard. I'll show you exactly how to do it. So you're going to want to pick an avocado that is soft, not overly firm. You don't want this mushy either. That means it's too ripe, but if it just has a certain give to the outer area of the avocado, that means it's ready, and you can take that seed and turn it into one of these. Now, when talking about the seed itself, you want the seed itself to be firm and blemish free. You don't want any issues with it, and you're going to want to peel the skin off the seed as well, and I'm going to show you how to do that too. So let me bring you in a little closer, and I'm going to show you really close in exactly what to do along every step of the way. Now, before we get started on extracting our seed, I want to show you how much growth is possible in less than 6 months in a water jar. And this jar was actually a maple syrup holder. And so I used that to start the roots. Also, there's some different things you can use. This is a jar specifically made for starting the avocado seed, and you can see it's the perfect size for a smaller avocado seed. Some are going to be too large for this, so that's why I will recommend this right here. This is actually from the grocery store. It's just a salad dressing container, and it was really nice because really nice glass on it, nice and thick. As this one looks beautiful, but the glass is a little bit on the thin side, but it's still workable. You just have to be very careful and don't drop it. But that is the different size containers you can use if you want to actually see the roots forming. Okay, I'm going to get our containers out of the way, and we're going to start with our ripe avocado seeds. I want to say again, you want to fill them and make sure they're not mushy. A little bit of give to the outside is fine, but if they're overly ripe, your seed may not be in the best condition. And these are actually Hass avocado seeds. So these are a little bit smaller. The other variety I looked at had a much larger seed. And so you just want to get the variety you like best. But there's something at the end I'm going to tell you about growing avocado that a lot of people don't realize. But anyways, let's get started on cutting the avocado seed. Okay, you just want to be careful, but you're going to cut very gently because you don't want to cut into the seed. So you just kind of work your way around the outside with minimal pressure. And just be careful not to put too much pressure so you damage the seed. You're going to twist, and you can see there's no cut marks anywhere on the avocado. We're going to extract it now just by carefully putting the knife in there and just gently remove it. Whoop, hope we won't lose it there. But that is the avocado. Now we're going to need to wash it. It's very slimy and slippery, but the avocado, we can set that to the side and eat that later, but we're going to go on to the next step of cleaning the avocado. All right, I've taken the avocado seed out and I've washed it and removed all of the avocado residue that was on it. I'm just going to dry it carefully with a paper towel. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the skin of the seed. And we may need to do that underwater, but I'm going to try to do it. Basically, if you have just a little bit of fingernail, you can do that, but you just want to carefully remove it a little at a time. And this process takes a little while, but it's not hard. And you just want to be careful not to damage the seed. Just very gently go all the way around and remove all of the exterior of the seed, all of the skin on the seed. Now we need to identify the top and bottom of the avocado seed. This is going to be your root area, kind of the more flattened area, and the more pointed side is where your tree is going to grow from. It's going to split in two, and you're going to have it growing. Your seedling is going to shoot up from there. So just remember, you want to make sure you don't put it in upside down, whatever container you put it in. First, I'm going to show you the toothpick method of having it rest in a glass and what angles and things like that we need to rest it at. All right, now we're going to rest it. We want the toothpicks angled up so it can rest in the water. And so we're going to put these into the avocado, and about a third of the way around each toothpick or skewer that you have. You're just going to go all the way around the outside. Now, these are angled up at a kind of an angle like that to allow it to sit deeper into the water. So that way you can fill it up to the edge and you can monitor it. You can see roots come out and you'll be able to see the avocado split open. I recommend going with obviously a larger size opening if you're going with the other variety. This is Hass. The other varieties can have a much larger seed. So you'll just want to take that into account. This would probably hold a larger seed, but this one that I purchased on Amazon and you can get, I'll put it into the link. A larger seed than Haas would not work. So anything larger than a Haas seed, you'll need to have a much larger container opening like this one. Now, glass containers actually are my favorite way to grow these. There's just something about seeing the roots form. It's just a lot of interest involved there. And if you have kids, they're going to love it too. So we're going to fill this with filtered water, and you can use distilled water or collected rainwater. And so we want to fill this up to where the base of the seed is actually touching the water. And we're just maybe a little bit too much there, but it should be okay. Some we're going to have some evaporation. So that's where you want to go. You want to make sure the seed is sitting in water. And before you know it, you're going to see roots forming at the base. Now, the next thing that's going to occur is you're going to have seed splitting, and a taproot will emerge and begin to grow. So that's one thing you can look forward to. If that doesn't happen, it may have meant your seed was not viable. Not all seeds are viable, so just be prepared that you may have a failure seed, and that's why I recommend starting 2 or 3 or even 4 of these at one time. So if you do have a failure, you'll still be encouraged by the other seeds that have started to send out roots. Now, one thing I would recommend is a heating mat. You want to set this directly on a heating mat. I think it's just going to be a better idea. It's going to provide just a little bit of underneath heat that will get the seeds started on producing those roots. If it's kind of drafty in your house, that's not a good idea. So you want to make sure there's nice gentle heat coming from below. The other issue is you want to keep it away from a lot of direct heat from the sun. If you have a south facing window and you set it in that window, you're probably going to have failure because there's going to be too much heat. The seed itself doesn't require light to grow, so you can put it in anywhere in your kitchen or somewhere. As long as the light is not too strong, it's going to work. But you have to remember there's a certain percentage of failure in these seeds as well. So the avocado tree in America thrives in zones 10 through 12. So my zone is 7A. It would not survive outside. It's just too cold in the winter. Although it might survive a brief period below 32, prolonged periods would eventually kill it. So that's one thing you have to remember. If you're planning on planting this outside, you need to make sure that you're in either zone 10, 11, or 12, or plan on making it into a house plant. But that's just an unfortunate thing about avocados. They won't grow in my area. I wish they would because I love them. So remember, it needs to be above 45 degrees, prolonged temperature. If it remains under 45, the health of the tree is going to suffer, and it's just not going to make it. It's not going to do anything for you as far as growth goes. It's going to remain in a dormant state. Now, these leaves are quite pointed, and I will mention that the reason it's wilted, it is blazing hot in the greenhouse, and I think that's why I've got some wilting happening, but it will, once I take it back inside, I think it's going to revive a little bit. But I've been in the greenhouse for a couple of hours, and it's suffering from a little bit of wilt there. So once it goes back inside the house and our temperatures come down, I think it'll recover. Also, I've probably moved the roots around a little bit too much for the video. Avocados don't like to have their roots disturbed repeatedly. So just remember, once you have it growing in the pot, try not to take it out of the pot unless you're changing water. Now, your initial leaves are going to be more rounded, and as they get older, they're going to become more oblong and pointed like this. Now, before moving on to the next step, I want to talk about an avocado seed, another alternate method of growing it if you don't have a glass container or if you just want to do it in a different way. I'm going to take the toothpicks out, and I'm going to show you what you can do is you can do paper towel in a Ziploc bag. And so you just take a couple, and you can do up to 4 or 5 in one bag with this method. But you're going to fold it over before you put it in the bag, and you're going to lightly mist it with water, 1 teaspoon of hydrogen peroxide per gallon in the water. I'm just going to lightly spray it and put it in our Ziploc bag. And make sure your bag is not pressed down. You want a lot of oxygen in the bag, so as you zip it, you kind of want it to have a inflated feel to it. So when you press on it, if you can see this, there's a lot of oxygen in there. So just remember, starting this method, you can do it the same way. However, I would recommend, even if it's in the plastic bag, you still need to have underheat, and I'd recommend using a heating mat. I'll put the link down below, but that's a good idea as well, is just make sure that it's in the proper setting for that seed to germinate. Now, if you want to plant them in a container, a used Starbucks cup is great. I've purchased these directly off Amazon. I'll put the link to those as well. But I usually put a little bit of aquarium gravel in there to allow the water to settle at the base. And then I come back and add a good potting soil. And so what we're going to do, we're going to leave a lot of space at the top. We're going to put our seed and make sure we're putting it in with the seed side down. We're going to lightly cover it. It doesn't have to be covered at the top because it's going to send out roots. And one thing I will recommend, once you water it, put some tape over the top of it to allow that humidity to go as high as possible. There are no drainage holes in this cup, so we want to keep the humidity as high as possible for that 3 to 4 week period for it to send out its roots and start to send up its tree. Now, terracotta pots are ideal for growing an avocado because it allows it to breathe. Some of the moisture can escape through the pot. It's a perfect type of pot. If you use plastic, it's going to retain a little bit more moisture. The way I do these, at the base of this, I add about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of aquarium gravel sitting on top of a paper towel, and that helps a little bit with drainage as well. So we're going to go on to the next step and plant our tree in our ceramic pot. Now, the roots of an avocado can be easily damaged, so I'm going to be extremely careful with it, and I'm going to dig out a hole deep enough to make sure that our roots are far down, but the plant itself or the seed itself does not have to be completely submerged in the soil. It can be sticking out the top 1/3, and that's perfectly okay. Our roots are down below, so we're just going to make it sure it's deep enough for our root system. And I'm going to firm the soil down a little bit to make sure it will stand. Like I said earlier, it's a little wilted because the greenhouse is hot, as am I. So we're going to take this outside and water it and make sure it's heavily saturated on that first watering. And just remember, it will drain properly because we've added the aquarium gravel and the paper towel to allow proper drainage. Now, regardless of what method you use to decide to start your seed, whether in a glass container, direct seeding in the soil, or in a plastic bag, avocados prefer their soil to be 6 to 6.5, slightly on the acidic side. So if your soil is too alkaline, that can affect the growth of the plant and this overall health and vigor. Now, adding some peat moss will help bring down the acidity a little bit, and also adding some really quality compost. I like to use Black Cow brand here where I'm from, and so that's a great thing to do to add to the soil, just to add extra nutrition if you do decide to go directly into the soil or once you transplant it into the soil. Now, one of the great things, if you have kids, an avocado seed can sprout and grow very quickly, and it can be a very fun, exciting thing for them to see happening. Unlike a lot of seeds that take a long time to germinate, avocado seeds can erupt from their seed and grow rapidly. Now, one way you can encourage more lateral growth is to pinch out the top leaves when it's in its early stages, and that will encourage more side shoots to come out in lateral growth rather than horizontal. Also, if there's any dead leaves anywhere on the plant, you want to make sure you remove those to encourage healthy growth. And if it's a sign of another issue, you may want to be more careful about your watering schedule because you may be waterlogging and causing a problem such as root rot. Once you have your avocado plant planted, you want to use a water meter to make sure that you don't overwater by checking the top 2 inches of the soil. Once that's dry, then it's time to water. But if you use your water meter and it's still showing a lot of moisture in the top of the 2 inches, don't water, it's not time yet. Also, when you're watering, you want to do a deep watering each time to make sure that the water does reach the lower root areas of the plant. So about fertilization, once you've got it into a larger pot, I always recommend Bloom Plus because it has a high phosphorus count. So that's going to help the root development. So a general nitrogen-based fertilizer, which focusing more emphasis on the nitrogen, you're going to have more leaf growth, but you want to have the roots growing nice and healthy. So remember, you want a high phosphorus NPK. The P is for phosphorus. That number should be a lot higher to encourage the root growth, and that's what this is. It's like 10-54-10, so very high phosphorus count. I'll link all of the items I'm talking about in the description, but I use this quite a bit on all sorts of things, especially rooting things and even my bonsai. Now, if you're taking your plant out in the summertime and allowing it to grow outdoors, you want to make sure you monitor for pests, and there's 2 products I always recommend. One is 100% natural cold pressed neem oil and diatomaceous earth that you can sprinkle on the soil surface, and that should prevent any insects. And both of these are completely natural. They're completely safe. I have a video talking about both of these products, so I'll link that above as well. One thing you'll want to take into consideration as your tree grows, you're going to realize that there's going to be some circular root growth. If you have it in a really small pot initially, that's going to happen a lot faster. So you want to remember that you want to use the largest pot you have. It doesn't have to be gigantic, but you just want it to be big enough for the roots to spread out. If the pot is too small to start with, you're going to have that circular spiral happening on your root system. So remember, you want to monitor that. When it comes time to replant in a new pot, you want to go maybe 2 to 3 inches larger to allow the tree to continue to flourish. And once you do decide to take it outside in the warmer months, you want to gradually increase that by 1 hour a day. 1 hour the first day, up to the 7th day, 7 hours, and then after that you can leave it outside indefinitely until cold weather starts to approach. Now also, once it does go outside initially, you want to protect it from midday sun or extreme heat. So just remember, you want to kind of have it in a shady area to begin with until it establishes itself outdoors. Also, once you take it outside, if you don't have mulch on the soil surface, make sure you put about 1 to 2 inches of organic mulch on the top, and that can help retain moisture. Now, if you're keeping it inside as a house plant, you're going to want to supplement its light with a good grow light. I've got 2 or 3 that are really nice, and I'll link one of my best ones down below. But that's one thing to remember, that it does need a good bit of light because it is a little bit on the tropical side as far as a plant goes. Now, typically avocados outdoors start to send out flowers and bloom about 3 to 4 years after their initial emergence from the seed. Indoors, that may take quite a bit longer because of the different circumstances it's growing in. So just remember, you're looking at 3 to 4 years before you even see flowers. Now, if you want to boost your chances of actually growing avocados from your tree, you want to have maybe 2 plants, 3 plants. They are self-fruiting, but an extra plant will help that. And also using a brush on the flowers to cross-pollinate, you can do that if you don't have enough natural pollinators in your area. If you're lucky enough to be able to pick avocados from your tree, if you live in the right environment and your tree has done well over the last 10 or more years, you're going to be able to pick a lot of fruit from it. But avocados don't ripen on the tree. You need to pick it, and then when it reaches full size, and then set it aside and allow it to ripen off of the tree. So after saying all this about collecting your own avocado fruit and you're excited about it, there's something really negative and sad you need to know about growing avocados if you're wanting to grow fruit. The Hass avocado was a 1 in 1,000 or more chance to grow that perfect avocado. The Hass avocado was discovered a little bit by accident, and you might grow 1,000 avocado trees, and each one of those trees might produce very unappealing fruit. The chance that it happened was extremely rare, and it's an interesting story about Rudolf Hass, the man who discovered the avocado, and I believe it was in the 1920s. His daughter encouraged him to grow a tree, just allow a certain tree to grow that he had, that all the other trees had failed, and so the one tree his daughter encouraged him to grow actually turned into the Hass avocado, which is one of the best avocados in the world. So by 1935, Rudolph had received a patent for his very unique avocado that tasted great, and it just had some really unique textures and taste to it. So it's really a very, very rare avocado that we have in most grocery stores now if you're buying Hass. But unfortunately, if you're growing your own, it's kind of an exercise in futility if you're wanting an identical plant. If you're just growing it for if you're just growing it for the pure fun of growing it, then that's another issue, and that's a great thing. But as far as if you're wanting to grow actual avocados, you're going to need to look into grafting an actual Hass avocado tree to the plant you've grown, and that way you can be assured. That's a whole nother process in another day, but you would basically cut the top of your tree off and graft a Hass avocado tree that's a genuine Hass tree onto your tree, and then you would end up with Hass avocados in about 10 to 12 years, or possibly less if the conditions were just right. So Hass's tree grew and produced fruit for about 70 years, and sadly in about 2002 it succumbed to root rot and died. So that was the end of the Hass avocado tree, but thousands upon thousands and even possibly millions of trees are now growing because of that one tree. So it's an interesting story about Mr. Hass and his incredibly great tasting avocado that has a longer shelf life than many avocados, and it's just one of those things I love to eat on toast. So guys, as this avocado tree continues to wilt in the extreme heat of the greenhouse, so do I. So I'm going to end it right here and take it back inside where it can get some nice cool air. Guys, I want to say thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate every view, subscriber, and comment. And if you have anything to add or anything interesting, I love trivia. So if you have any trivia about the avocado tree, or if I missed anything, let me know. I would love to see it down below. So guys, have a great day, and thanks for watching.